I'm Barbara Mackoff. I'm a consulting psychologist, an author, a leadership and nursing educator, and I'm delighted to be senior faculty for AONE. My father was a physician and my mother was a nurse manager. My three sisters and I called them Dr. and Mrs. Overcautious. And when I was growing up, my father asked me, "What do you want to do, Barbara?" And I said, "I want to do one interesting thing after another." And luckily and happily, it's turned out to be that way. My formal background, the first interesting thing I did was to get an educational background in both anthropology, education, and psychology. So I've always had a passion and a sustaining interest in how people think and feel, how they do that in groups, and how to teach and learn both what you've learned and to learn from what other people know. So over the years, that's translated into the adventure of writing books, doing research, being a college professor, and pretty much exclusively over the last 10 years working in nursing leadership, because that's where I have found is a real devotion and a way to bring together my interest in leadership, in how people think and feel, and the organizations in which they work and live and love and care. Two weeks ago, I was sitting with a group of nurse managers, and I asked each of them to say how many years they had been involved in nursing. And in a group of 13 people, it was 250 years. And it's that figure and that expertise and the depth of that well of knowledge that has really been driving the idea of a leadership laboratory. Why not only draw on my 25 years of teaching leadership, but why not have nurse managers and nurse leaders be in a laboratory where they can experiment with ideas by getting best practices from their peers, by solving problems together, by looking at case examples and challenges that they have faced and look at them together as a group, looking at times they have succeeded and figure out why as a group. And so the bottom line for me became, after all those years of teaching about leadership, that there was a missing component, and that's what the learners know. And to develop a format where we can have nurse managers and leaders teach each other what they've learned along the way and use the wisdom of their experience and facilitate that kind of learning environment, that was how this idea got started. And I've been able to do this in a whole variety of settings in different countries here. And what I've discovered is that some of the greatest pieces of knowledge and the greatest tactical and strategic ideas come from your peers. And that it's our job as leadership educators to create an atmosphere where new things can be learned, not just from the person who convenes the course, but from the people who sit around the table. Because when their ideas are in the middle of the table, you've got some great ideas about how to deal with the lived experience of being in charge in a healthcare environment. Every education program, and there's some astonishingly good ones all around the world, has a component with the facilitator or leader's knowledge. It's very important that someone lead who has a whole variety of experience and evidence base as a researcher and as a teacher. But as I said earlier, it's that missing piece. A leadership laboratory is different because the knowledge and the ideas in the middle of the table are not just those of the facilitator. That before the laboratory, participants send in questions and examples and best practices and times when they've succeeded, so that when we're all together, their ideas, their strategies, their challenges are the essence of our conversation. And so when you mix up what the participants know, or you make a mix or a recipe of what the participants know and what a facilitator knows, you have a very different recipe for leadership learning. It's not just leadership learning, it's leadership development, because there's an opportunity to reflect on your own experiences, on the experiences of your peers, and also on the expertise that a facilitator would bring into that room and into that occasion. I was on a phone call with Sue Hassmiller from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation one afternoon. I was standing in my living room in Seattle. She was in New Jersey, and we were talking about leadership development. And Sue said to me, "You know, I'm really interested in nurse managers, why we can't keep them, why so many of them leave." And I said, "Sue, I think we should talk to the ones that stayed." And the result of that was a grant from Robert Wood Johnson to study nurse manager engagement. I had been interested in nursing leadership. I had been working with nursing leaders in different organizations, but here was the first time to go across the country to 6 different organizations and talk to nurse managers who were engaged and sustained in their work over time. And in that, I developed this interest in nurse managers that I call the love of my work life, which is, how do we turn managers into leaders? How do we take the strengths of our nurse managers and leverage those to fill up that very long bench that we have, that we will need to move nursing leadership into the future?